Köszönöm szépen, and thank you very much. The presentation that I'll be giving is going to be in English. I hope you don't mind, because this is what I prepared. But before I start the presentation, I wanted to talk a couple things about the notes that I wrote up. Number one, the conference. I've been, I would say, about several hundreds of conferences in the last 10 years in the private sector here in Budapest and Western Europe in the United States, and this conference is an exemplary conference that I have seen. I mean, I'm talking about the translation, I'm talking about the presenters, I'm talking about the organization. So thank you very much. It is a trendsetter conference. Something else that I've learned here today, and this also signifies the importance of the professionalism of the conference, the Foundation for Modern Youth and Civic Participation, which I'm representing today, is an Illinois organization. And in Illinois today, the auxiliary police is non-existent because of legislation demanding that the training has to be the same as for the regular police. Well, what I've seen from the presenters here, it's not an impossible task to carry through. In fact, if they do that, the responsibilities of the auxiliary police officers can increase with the training in parallel. I have seen the presentation from Ireland, and I think that is going to be my presentation on social responsibility is going to be in direct relationship to her last slide. And it's going to be in contrast to the presentation given by the distinguished gentleman from Israel, whose presentation was extremely entertaining. And this is going to be about not mostly money, but somewhat money. So corporate social responsibility in the digital age driven by RDC. What is RDC? We will find out shortly. What is CSR? What is CSC? We'll talk about the hows and the who's and the why and the what. The new concept, FMyCP is going to introduce a new concept, CDSR, driven by RDC. And I purposely put these abbreviation here, not the full title, because we'll talk about that during the presentation. And of course, we'll look at the resource-based view of CSR and the cultural fit of the organization or within the organization of its employees. And last, the pitfalls of CSR. It's a noble concept, but well-intentions only go as far as professionalism and knowledge. And yes, you can actually do harm even with the best intentions. What is CSR? You don't have to read the whole thing. But before we define that, let's talk about social responsibility, which is nothing more than an ethical framework which suggests that a corporation, a group, or an individual should act for the benefit of society at large. Well, again, I go back to the Israeli gentleman. It's a nice theory. But how is that going to happen in practice? What happens when a private citizen says, oh yeah, I'm socially responsible, I want the best for society? Well, I'll give you an example here. For 2 years, I was the managing director for the Hungarian Organology Research Institute. And we used to give charity concerts in the Hungarian basilicas to benefit the Safety in Europe project, which was to prevent the victimizations of travelers to Europe and to Hungary. And these were high-level concerts, and when the attendees came, when the people came to attend these concerts, they asked why the tickets aren't free. Because it's a charity concert. And it's a logical question. They assumed that charity is going to be about them. Did not even occur to them that their 1,000 forints would go to a different cause. I could blame L'Oreal for that because they have a commercial because you deserve it. And I'm not sure about that, or you deserve, I don't know how many of you know about the L'Oreal commercial. You deserve it and you're worth it. Well, I think we've pretty much learned that concept. We need to go beyond that. So when I talk about corporate social responsibility, it's really made up of the people who decide the business policy of the corporation and how they self-regulate the corporation and how they integrate that into the corporation's business model to monitor and to ensure that the corporation is active with not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law itself. And they are in harmony with local, regional, national, and international norms. Some view CSR as a risk management device. It is, but does it really matter? Does it really matter why the corporation is doing the right thing? I don't think so. I really don't care why somebody doesn't hit me over the head with a brick on the street because they are morally obligated not to, or because they're afraid of the consequences because there's an auxiliary police officer or a police officer right on the corner. The result is still the same. I will not be a victim. Beyond CSR, which is really just a mission, it's a strategy. How do we implement that? Again, I just kept on writing the notes as you were talking. How do we implement it? How do we implement it successfully? Through corporate social engagement, which is the method and the process through which CSR is carried out within a corporation. Why? I mentioned that to prevent legal actions. I think one of the British presenters, Ellen, may have said that more and more people complain in the US. It's a very litigious society. So when people can sue, they probably will. So you need to prevent legal actions that will increase, of course, or decrease the corporation's risk. To preempt government regulation. Well, that would have been nice about 2006-07, where the bank financial crisis doesn't happen if the banks regulate themselves. Didn't really happen. Now we have a very strict corporation, not only on the trade boards, but also in the operations side. And you see a new industry developed, which is nothing more than compliance. Compliance to trading regulations, compliance to laws, compliance to ISO. So it's a new industry, so it's good for us because it's business, but they really could have prevented that by a little bit of a socially conscious self-regulation, not giving out bad loans to people who cannot afford them. To accommodate the nuances of globalization, and of course, you do have those socially conscious owners, individuals in the corporation, stakeholders, we do have those socially conscious stakeholders and individuals who believe in a particular cause, who believe in a particular direction of society, and we can look at social media corporations or other corporations who really stand behind and dedicate a personal cause. And of course, to create shared value and to accommodate a resource-based view, or to increase, and I say a resource-based value, because resources are values. Our human resources are valuable resources because how many of you have mentioned that you have invested training, you have invested effort in those resources, so they are actually valuable assets to your company. At the end, we need results. Need results that can be seen, that can be felt, that can be measured, and that can be reported on. Corporations can achieve that by social compliance and responsible behavior, social engagement, and operational support. I mentioned that in social compliance, we need to comply with the spirit of the law, with the social norms. We should actually behave and provide an example how other corporations should behave regarding safety and security. And that holds true for virtually all corporations, especially in the digital environment. They have to do everything possible to protect the client's identity, their financial information, and so on. So that is a form of responsibility. With the emergence of new technologies, new problems arise. We all heard of live streaming. So when you introduce a program or application like Snapchat, maybe there should be a little bit of a self-regulation and a preventive measure beforehand, because you know what these new technologies can bring up into society, especially regarding youth. In China, for example, product quality can be considered a form of CSR. In Germany, secured employment, and in certain African countries, contribution to healthcare and paying extra attention to healthcare is also considered CSR. The most common form, especially in the Anglo-Saxon countries, the corporate philanthropy, donating money to which are tax deductible or non-tax deductible, professional support offering services, consultancy, legal advice, financial and tax advice, equipment donations. Those companies which are heavily using IT technologies, a lot of times they donate those technologies once they have reached the end of their economic life. Organization and communication support, where companies organize, especially in the US, blood drives, clothing donations, where an employee before or after work or on their break can go and donate blood or clothes. And then another popular one, which I'm going to challenge at the end of this presentation, is manpower or volunteer support by a corporation providing volunteers for particular causes. I'll talk about that particular point at the pitfalls of CSR. And last, operational support. Certain companies decide to only deal with particular products that are socially conscious, such as fair trade coffee or tea, or manufacture those items that are socially beneficial, whether it's dog waste, trash cans, and so on. But a new trend is developing where companies are looking downwards in their supply chain management and subcontractors to make sure that those companies are also socially responsible. What you don't want is you build a shopping center and you have a shifty subcontractor, and 3 years later the shopping center collapses through no fault of your own. Activities that how companies conduct their business, whether it's either media activities such as radio stations. They do have a mandated public announcement that they have to do, but they can go beyond that. But that's a positive CSR behavior. What's a negative CSR behavior? I've seen this in Hungary, and actually there are other countries as well, but this is popular here, where radio stations announce live where the speed traps are. Well, number one, that undermines the police's work, where the speed traps are, but it also tells the speeders what to watch out for. And indirectly, these announcements are contributing to those accidents which are caused by high speed. So I'd have to say that these announcements are not very socially responsible. So we've talked about the real world. This is what we're used to. But now, I'm sure that in some of your countries, in Hungary, you increasingly see cybercrime, harassment, bullying online. I don't have to point out United Airlines from my hometown, how they behaved. I don't know how many of you have seen the video of United Airlines flying the friendly skies. Yes, I have one hand. Just one, two, okay, three, four, okay, I see that. So now we are in the digital war, and we have to pay attention how we behave there. So we are introducing corporate digital social responsibility. I shy away from using social responsibility in the digital world because it's more than that. It needs to be focused, dedicated, committed, and that effort needs to be sustained. So CDSR is more than just a website presence. It's every activity, every commercial activity that the company conducts online. It's every digital information about the company, its products, its workers, whether, again, our Irish presenter said earlier, on social media, how they behave on social media, I'm pretty sure that you guys would not like if there's an auxiliary police officer uniform and that person is drunk and laying on top of a table, unconscious. So that does not present a good picture of that corporation. Every customer feedback, interaction, and review about the company, products, and policies, again, going back to United. So our digital environment is immediate image forming, and it will have virtually immediate repercussions. United now is actually under a congressional review for that particular incident, where this would not have happened 10 years ago. So CDSR is driven by RDC, which is responsible digital citizenship. RDC refers to a behavior utilizing information technologies to constructively engage in society, politics, government, and community. We see companies who take a stand. I think it's a mistake personally, but who take a stand on a particular political issue. We saw Starbucks taking a stand on an issue which some people agree with, some people boycott. So they are really limiting their client base. I have seen just yesterday, there's an issue which I'm not going to talk about the particularness of it, but there's a cafe right around the corner. I was waiting to come here. I went into the cafe and there was a hashtag and the cause right next to it, which again, I did not support. So I just decided not even to go in there. So when a company decides to engage in politics and government, then the best suggestion is to do it constructively. Because if they don't, or if they do not protect the rights and the information of their clients, then that can fire back not only at the corporation, but also at the industry itself. There are 4 major groups in CDSR and 13 factors, of which 11 are directly related to what we're talking about. We have the digital infrastructure, digital behavior, information, and framework. Under infrastructure, we have digital standards and, of course, cybersecurity. Under digital behavior, we have intelligence, digital health and wellness of the employees, digital commerce and communities which will help the corporation to get out its message, to receive them, and to buy their products and services. Digital media, news and platforms, and literacy and education of the people who buy those products and services, who read anything about the corporation, who may or may not exercise critical thinking. And of course, we do have the legal framework, which guarantee digital access, governed by laws, and of course, those laws are going to assign rights and responsibilities, and of course, the accountabilities to wherever they may fall. These are just the definitions, which I briefly talked about. These presentations are going to be, I assume, available, so you will have access to them. So the commercial presence and the interaction of society in the virtual environments is increasing and is continually evolving. Therefore, the practice of CDSR should always be now included in corporate social responsibility. By finishing my presentation, and I'm not going to have too much time left on the pitfalls, I do want to focus on resource-based value. Some people say resource-based view. We have to create shared values in the corporation. We have to focus on resources who are valuable, rare, inimitable, non-substitutable, and loyal. And at this point, I'm going to say, be there for the better future. Thank you very much.